In February 1941, the Disney Animation Studio was on the brink of a strike. The studio had gradually become more stratified since Snow White, with less bonuses for animators and more perks at the new Burbank studio relegated to Walt Disney's favorites. The pay scale at the studio was completely disorganized, and there had been massive layoffs following 2 recent box office flops. The discontent wasn't just among lower-level workers. Art Babbitt was one of Disney's top animators, but he wanted to unionize the studio, and he hated Walt Disney. Disney saw no problems with the way the studio was run. He liked the hierarchy, and thought the new studio more than made up for any working conditions his workers didn't like. In a speech to his workers, he said, "In the 20 years I've spent in this business, I've weathered many storms. It's been far from easy sailing. It required a great deal of work, struggle, determination, competence, faith, and above all, unselfishness. Some people think we have a class distinction in this place. They wonder why some people get better seats in the theater than others." He went on to say, "I have always felt, and always will feel, that the men that contribute the most to the organization should, out of respect alone, enjoy some privileges. My first recommendation to the lot of you is this: put your own house in order. You can't accomplish a damn thing by sitting around and waiting to be told everything. If you're not progressing as you should, instead of grumbling and growling, do something about it." After the speech, Babbitt became a leader in the Screen Cartoonists Guild and started helping to unionize the studio. Disney felt betrayed and fired Art and 16 others. Perhaps you can see the catch-22 here. Lower-level employees can't unionize because they simply don't work hard enough. Top-level employees like Art Babbitt can't unionize because it's considered a personal betrayal of Walt Disney. It seems, in the eyes of the people running a company, there's never a good time to get together and collectively demand a fair and stable working environment. Disney fought the union tooth and nail. He testified in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee, accusing many of his own workers of being communists. Many of them were blacklisted and never worked in the industry again. He justified his behavior by saying many of the strikers were chip-in-the-shoulder boys and the world owes me a living, lads. You'll notice in his speech Walt Disney was very quick to extol his own virtues, but those who helped him are never mentioned. Ub Iwerks, for instance, made Mickey Mouse what he is today. Iwerks helped to lay the cornerstones of the Disney Empire, and drew the cartoons that would make Walt Disney a success. Yet Walt didn't see fit to mention him. Apparently, the world doesn't owe Walt Disney a living, but his workers do. You'll also notice Walt uses the phrase, "put your own house in order." This is a phrase that could come straight out of a Jordan Peterson speech. This has been the rallying cry of reactionaries throughout time. If you're not making enough money, it's because your labor isn't worth enough on the free market. It's because your room isn't clean. Who are you to criticize the world with an unclean room? Now, cleaning your room can be a very good thing, but not at the expense of advocating for your rights. Justice doesn't wait for Windex and Lysol. Disney and Peterson have one goal, whether they know it or not. Their goal is to take your anger at rising debts, falling wages, and a warming planet, and refocus the discontent inwards, at yourself. You can see Walt's labor practices carried forward into the Disney company of today. Just in the last couple of years, Disneyland and Disney World workers had to undergo a major fight to raise their pay to $15 an hour. The Disney cruise lines to this day are headquartered in the Bahamas to pay below the U.S. minimum wage. Of course, all these measures are justified by practicality. Market forces and all that. Well, leftist ideas are nice in theory, but it's just not practical. I have always and will always maintain that practicality is a way for people to avoid examining their values. If you believe better working conditions aren't possible, you've absolved yourself of the moral dilemma of supporting billionaires while people starve. In your mind, that's just the way of the world. That way you can fight for freer markets or less taxes, and maybe we'll get better standards of living down the road, but only when the markets say so. You have to let the market function, they say. People who think this way have never accomplished anything for anyone. Misdirection is the essence of reactionary thought. Reactionaries are telling you to clean your room to distract you, not to make you better. Reactionaries believe it's unrealistic for everyone to have health care, but one man having $100 billion is perfectly practical. Reactionaries are fighting for the status quo, and they'll use any tactic, no matter how dishonest, to do so.